Hello, I'm Joel Blackford with Beth Hassett Sabbath Fellowship. We're virtual, we're closed as a building, but we're open for phone calls, 612-315-6778. We do the philosophy of eschatology, what you need to know, our reality, our existence, what's going on, try not to be disparate, try to make sense, try to harmonize, and be Beth Hassett Sabbath Fellowship. Did World War III begin in 2014? If we get to that point where we see World War III occurring, did it happen in 2014? And what happened then in 2014? I'll try to prove that case today. I'm saying that the saber rattling by Medvedev today, or yesterday technically, Russia's Medvedev attack on Crimea will ignite Judgment Day response. So really, they took Crimea in response to Kiev having a revolt in 2014, and it was a month later. And now they're saying, okay, fine, you want a war in Ukraine, and we'll give you the war, but that will bring Judgment Day. And Russia annexed the Black Sea Peninsula of Crimea from Ukraine in 2014 after a pro-Moscow president in Kiev was toppled amid mass street protests. And who led those protests? We'll discuss that today. Okay, and so Medvedev and Putin are both pushing back and saying, you want World War III, we'll give it to you, but it really started in 2014, and that's what we're working on today. And then the crazy people on the American side, and really in Germany and other places in Europe, they're saying, well, we can win this war. We can beat them in a nuclear war. Russia has 6,850 warheads. Many of them are super speed warheads. They'll reach their target very, very quickly, faster than U.S. missiles. We have in the USA 6,450. There are others across the world, but really Russia has a huge landmass and would be able to survive this much better than we. And their people are ready for this, okay? And Americans are really not. So anybody that tells you we can embrace the goal of a Ukrainian victory and cause World War III and win it is an idiot. And the funny thing is, of all the people to do this, it's the liberals. It's sorry to be political, but it's the Democrats. They're all saying we can win this one. Vindman is one of those guys. I'm blanking on Adam Schiff, the other guy. They're all thinking that we can win this one. This is stupid. You don't saber rattle with Putin right now, especially on his turf. And Ukraine is really his turf in many ways, especially the Russian areas. So yeah, this is Vindman that wrote this article. He's a moron. He's always been a moron. And so there you go. Okay, so the tensions of the Cold War seemed to have erased. I mean, when I was a kid, we remembered the Cold War because it was active, And then by about 1989, it went away, and it's back. It's back big time. And it's because the United States has been causing this. So World War III is closer now than ever before. And we're actually preparing for it. So this is New York City ran an ad just the last couple of days here in July 13th, say 2022. The Emergency Management Office ran a video, you can see it on the bottom there on YouTube, saying, how do we survive a nuclear weapons attack? And spread awareness about how to survive this nuke attack in the event the nuclear weapon was aimed at New York. These people are stupid, and we shouldn't be looking for a nuclear war. We should be, strength negotiates better with strength, and Putin is strong. We have a very weak president right now, and we're in trouble based on that. So what are we trying to do here? We're trying to give you the Bible in a truthful form. We'll get to the Bible way at the end. We're trying to give you prophecy. I'm going to give you something immediately here. And then the news. We'll look at it and see if it matches with the philosophy of the end of days. Let's do Wilkerson, okay? The three best that I've ever seen are David Wilkerson with his vision from 1973. Dmitry Duduman came and spoke across the United States, and he said America will burn. And I've met his grandson, Michael Boldea. And then the third one would be Henry Groover, who basically said the same thing, and I met him actually. And so Wilkerson's vision is something where if you're an eschatologist, especially the pre-tribbers, they follow this guy closely, okay? It's not just guys like me. I'm on the post-trib side. Wilkerson is big. He's huge in the pre-trib factory, we'll call it. And so he said back in 1973, worldwide, not worldwide, worldwide recession starting in Germany. I thought it was Europe because the oh goodness, was it the book or not? I'll explain it in a minute. But basically, it seemed like Europe. Okay, and so I've been citing Europe mostly, while the video itself says Germany. Okay, the sermon itself. So then nature's labor pains, earthquakes, famines, other things like that. Lots and lots of earthquakes. So if you want to, just go hit the video, people. It's under Sermon Index. Especially listen carefully at the 2-minute mark. The third is the flood of filth in the TV and newspapers. R-rated, X-rated stuff on TV. You know, magazines, newspapers filled with filth. Rebellion in homes, as the kids want nothing to do with their parents. They live at home. They won't leave, but they don't treat their parents with respect. And then persecution madness against spirit-filled people, you know, and it'll separate the sheep from the sheep. So it's basically Ezekiel 34. Okay, so Wilkerson had that prophecy back then. This is an article by James Bailey. I don't necessarily agree with him because he publishes everything. He doesn't vet, you know, but this is republished from May 11th, 2015, where he says, it seems as though it's coming from Germany. And Germany is the one that seems to be falling right now. It's not going to be Greece in Europe. It's going to be Germany. So there's an even greater financial disaster that's falling upon Europe that will cause the euro, collapse the euro, cause panic and chaos there. Germany will refuse to prop up the euro anymore. Basic needs in the poor European nations will be threatened. Many will lose their money overnight as the stage is set for financial takeover of the Antichrist system. This is imminent. The dollar will also follow eventually, though it will survive for a season more. That's Maurice Sklar adding on to this. So what does the vision say? And there's the book. If you want to buy it, good luck buying it. I have 2 copies. There aren't many left in the world today. The vision, I see a total economic confusion starting in Europe first. Actually, it's Germany in the sermon. And then affecting Japan, the United States, Canada, and other nations shortly thereafter. So the economic collapse begins in Europe, but really Germany. There's a slight difference between things circulating. There's the book, and then there's the video. I would say the video is more accurate. It's a sermon, okay? So is it the collapse starting in Europe, then spreading to South America, then to Mexico, or is it really, it looks like it's U.S., I mean, it's going to be Germany first, then Japan, then U.S. So just listen to this. It starts in Germany, and then Japan, then U.S., okay? So that seems to be the case. That's your prophetic input from Wilkerson, and it's really hard to disagree with him. He seems to be accurate. And he led a good, godly life, too, people. All 3 of those men that I cited led good, godly lives. Okay, so what time is it? Biden just went to Jerusalem, and he just messed everything up. So this is done by a nice gentleman, Rick Ridings, a call to fast and pray for Jerusalem against the Tower of Babel situation. He's claiming that Babel came to Jerusalem, and the globalists are speaking as one language, and they really are building their kingdom in such a relatively short time, and the unity has created an evil momentum. That's an interesting way to state it. So Jerusalem is still the crown jewel. God is very jealous for Jerusalem, and so the Babel system came there, tried to divide Jerusalem and Israel, and it's interesting that this man, Rick Ridings, said it's a 2-edged sword in her hand. That is the Ramphea sword from Revelation 6:8. So he cited 17 Tammuz, which is a fast day. I just fasted yesterday on the 16th, and then through the 17th. Today is the 18th, technically. And then they will breach the walls of Jerusalem before the appointed time. That's what happened on 17 Tammuz many, many years ago. Moses broke the tablets. The Romans broke through. The Babylonians broke through. Things occurred, and then during the 3 weeks' time, then eventually the temples both fell on Av 9, which is coming up pretty quick here, 3 weeks from now. So basically, it's interesting that Biden left Israel on the 17th of Tammuz, you know, with his curse circus. Okay, so now let's go back to 2014 and see the connection there. So this was Tuesday, March 18th of 2018. In February 18th, the Ukrainian president was ousted, and Putin became angry. So then by Tuesday, the 18th of March, Putin said, and that's 16 of Adar too, that's basically the full moon time. Putin said under the full moon, I'm going to attack the Crimea. Okay, and it's very interesting how that worked out. So under the full moon, and then the next full moon brought us the Passover, Sukkot, Tetrad that Mark Boltz talks about all the time of 2014 and 2015. So it's just interesting how these things matched up. So Putin was a month before on a full moon attacking, and then the next full moon started the blood moon eclipses. So I think it matches prophetically, and it matches with the signs in the sky, and God doesn't force these things to occur, but people do it anyway. So Putin's no idiot. Why would he choose on March 18th of 2014 to attack Crimea? Because he knew that there was going to be a war, East versus West, and the West is basically the North Atlantic Treaty Association, NATO, fighting against him, and in some ways China and other nations. And so why not start the fight on his own terms and in his home turf? Okay, so I believe that they're enticing Putin into this proxy war. They want to fight and destroy in Ukraine because the Americans believe that if the fight is in the Ukraine, that then Putin won't launch nukes at America. He'll destroy Ukraine. Well, that's not so good if you're a Ukrainian. And Zelensky is an idiot to allow this to occur. Now, this guy, Adarsh Gupta, he's from India, and he doesn't think there will be a World War III. Well, I've been wrong every time before. I could see it happening. Even Biden thinks that's called World War III. So he's really trying to push the war to Ukraine, and that's where your World War III would be. I don't think it'll start there, but it'll start someplace if there's going to be one. So once again, the revolution of dignity happened in the Ukraine, Kiev, February 18 through 23 of 2014. Putin invades Crimea March 18th on the full moon. Okay, and you know, this is a question from, I'm blanking on the site that this is, but is using nuclear weapons still taboo? It was when I was a kid, isn't anymore. I think we've forgotten our history. Keep in mind that using nuclear weapons, or at least threatening them, gets ratings. And it's odd among the liberals. So CNN was down, and MSNBC was way down in ratings, and now they're popping back up again because more war, more media whore cash. Okay, just flat out, that's how it works. And so if it bleeds, it leads. And so yes, they wanted the invasion of Ukraine, or at least to ratchet up something, but it's the liberals doing it. Normally, it's the neocons. You know, it's like Lindsey Graham and all those guys, Mitch McConnell. You know who the war hawks are, okay? Cheney's daughter in the House. You know, they're the war hawks. They love a good war over oil because they make money. And so what did Eisenhower say back in 1960? Beware of the military-industrial complex. I don't think it was 60, it was 61. Yeah, anyway. So the point is, he said it, and he's accurate, and it's the people that make money off war and off blood that are sickening. So yes, CNN's ratings have popped up because of the war. Ugh. Okay, so the Ukrainian Revolution of Dignity. What did it achieve? Not much, okay? It really probably started World War III. So although its imperfections leave many Ukrainians disillusioned, its successes frighten Vladimir Putin as the Russian president ponders an invasion. And this was published back in 2014. I mean, we knew he was going to invade Crimea, but then he realized, okay, now if I'm going to do that, I might as well plug the gaps. So Peter Zihan, okay, I follow him. He said Putin has some gaps, and he has a shrinking army and populace, so he needed to fight it now. So he is fighting it now. But is it time for World War III? Well, I think you'll find that somebody will trigger it someplace stupid, and that's when it would kick it off. Okay, so Yanukovych or whatever abandoned Ukraine's association agreement with the EU. So basically, the former president in 2013 wanted to go towards Russia, and Russia wanted that, and they wanted Ukraine to be a buffer. Well, when he was dumped in 2014, Putin realized, I need to plug that gap somehow, because I can't have the NATO people putting missiles right in the Ukraine, right there, right on my border, and he won't allow it. So Yanukovych, whatever, the guy that led Ukraine for 4 years prior to 2014, fled to Russia and then the revolution of dignity kicked off. I'm saying that Obama and Biden kicked it off and then sent their henchmen in, like Hunter Biden, to make money off it too, which is even sicker. Okay, so what happened, this is from Voltaire.net or net.org. What happened in Kiev in 2014, the West devised a narrative of the Russian special military operation in Ukraine that overlooks their own actions. Since the dissolution of the Soviet Union, they have forgotten their signing of the Charter. They wanted security, but the West violated it, okay? They have forgotten the way they changed the Ukrainian government in 2004 and the coup d'etat that pulled out the nationalists in power in 2014 and put in basically the NATO guys, okay? So they want to blame Russia for all their ills, but really it was Obama and the NATO guys that wanted to put NATO missiles into Russia. And Putin has every right to keep NATO missiles out of Ukraine. So the West has blood on their hands, okay? They started wars in many, many places: Afghanistan, Iraq, Libya, Syria, Yemen. The West foments so much more war than Putin. So they hanged President Saddam Hussein for refusing to accede to the dollar. And so, yeah, Gaddafi also, he wanted a Pan-African currency, so he was done. Killed. So what happened between Kiev and Putin? Russia's President Vladimir Putin claims Ukraine has fallen into the hands of far-right fascist groups. He's correct. He is correct. There are Nazis in the Ukraine, and they are propped up by the NATO nations. The United States and Europe always sides with the wrong people, the evil people that they think are less evil than other evil people. Well, you give people enough leash and they're going to become more evil over time. So yes, there are swastikas all over these wolf's angels in Ukraine. And so this is more recent. This is 6/2 of 2014. Rather, this is older. At the weekend's Munich Security Conference, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov had a heated public exchange with NATO Secretary General Anders Fogh Rasmussen, in which the latter accused Russia of bellicose rhetoric, and Lavrov responded by citing the European Missile Defense Program as an attempt to secure a nuclear first strike capability against Russia. So this is 6/2 of 2014. We know what's going on there, okay? And so we see the swastika pop up in Ukraine, and Russia doesn't want that. So then you've got the big talkers, and so this is interesting. This is from Jens Stoltenberg, the NATO Secretary General, and this is talking about 2014. The reality is also that we have been preparing for this for World War III since 2014. That is the reason that we have increased our presence in the eastern part of the alliance, why NATO allies have started to invest more in defense, and why we have increased our readiness. For what, World War III? You're an idiot. Okay, so British Army Chief declares he's mobilizing his forces to win a European war, in part to free up the U.S. to fight in the Pacific, basically sketching out the contours of the next World War. Everyone's treating this as an inevitability rather than willfully chosen insanity. So that's Michael Tracy, a pundit. And then Ukraine military pulled itself out of ruins in 2014, well, because NATO came in with cash and propped up their military. So U.S. training showed up in 2014 directly on the soil, and that's what kicked everything up into World War III. The United States said, let's go fight in Ukraine rather than have the fight occur someplace else. More comments about this. My central claim is that the United States has pushed forward policies toward Ukraine that Putin and other Russian leaders see as existential threats, a point they have made repeatedly for many years. Specifically, I'm talking about America's obsession with bringing Ukraine into NATO and making it a Western bulwark on Russia's border with nukes on Russia's border. The Biden administration was unwilling to eliminate that threat through diplomacy, and indeed, in 2021, recommitted the United States to bringing Ukraine into NATO and fomenting World War III. So that's John Mearsheimer. The U.S. National Guardsmen trained Ukrainian soldiers and seems to have paid off. Okay, who's the source? NPR. NPR is promoting war. Okay, they really are. It's the liberals. This is the most bizarre, stupid madness I've ever seen in my life. That the liberals are saying we want World War III, and so they're saying, "Oh, this is great that we're training Ukrainian soldiers so they can fight over there." No, World War III would go everywhere. Okay, stupid. Everything's so stupid. British Army says mobilize to prevent war in Europe. We're not at war, but we must act rapidly so that we aren't drawn into one. And so this Sanders guy, General Patrick Sanders. So, and right after this, Boris Johnson steps down because the English people don't want World War III. So this is our 1937 moment. Well, he's citing Neville Chamberlain, who blinked and like a coward came back and said, "I have peace with dignity," and then Hitler attacked right after that. We're not at war, but we must act rapidly so that we're not drawn into one through failure to contain territorial expansion. Idiots. Putin must be contained, sealed off from their sources of influence, funds, and technological capability. These guys are idiots. They're absolute bonkers idiots. Neville Chamberlain would be proud. He's not going to look like the most stupid person in history right now. These guys are 10 times more stupid. Can we blame Obama for Putin's World War III? Yes, absolutely. Obama was there fomenting the whole way, saying, "Hey, let's send some troops over to Ukraine so we can teach them how to fight and give them lots of cash." And so this is an older article, I believe, from 2014. In Ukraine, we're seeing the direct consequences of a failure of American leadership. Ted Cruz said, criticizing Obama for receding from the world, abandoning allies, and failing to show resolve either toward or supporting the protesters in Kiev or standing up to the Russians or anything at all. But Obama's behind it, guys. Trust me. Cruz said, Putin has taken measure of President Obama and has determined that he has nothing to fear from the United States, and that is why he is proceeding with impunity. Okay, fine. So what's the truth? This is a Russian ambassador's opinion on this, and I'll just read a couple of things. So Carolyn said Ukraine would have to decide strike a peace deal with Russia or continue slipping down this hill to ruin. Okay, and on the bottom here, he also cast the war as a necessary revolt against the United States, according to the Jerusalem Post, which he says has humiliated Russia since 1991 and the fall of the Soviet Union by enlarging NATO eastwards and was using Ukraine to threaten Russia. That's what they feel. They feel threatened, and they should. Now, this is another world leader that didn't retire. He died. So this is former PM, Japanese PM Abe, and he said maybe the war could have been avoided if Zelensky had been forced to pledge that his country would not join NATO or had been forced to grant a high degree of autonomy to Luhansk and Donetsk in the east. So he's dead now, okay? He didn't follow the WEF orders for jabs and other things like that, and he's dead now. Okay, so he was a conservative, and I don't see any legitimate conservative now saying, I want World War III, but I see it from the liberals. So I'm not going to read the whole thing here. I just want you to realize that Mother Russia is important to Russians, and they hate Nazis, and they believe that they are the Fourth Reich, that they are important, that they are basically a seed of the Byzantine Empire, and they have kept the Eastern Orthodox faith going all these years, and they believe they're the light of that. And so this is an ethnic fight, but it's between Orthodox and Orthodox, but they believe that it's brothers versus brothers. They would want to be the Great Russians, and then there's also the Little Russians, the Belarusians. The White Russians are Belarus. So just keep it in mind. They believe they're connected to Rome and the Byzantine Empire. The blood moon sign of Mother Russia. I'm saying that these blood moons really said that the formula, the philosophy of Putin and his Dugin friend, that's his confidant, is really taking over right now. They're mentally ready for a war, and they really don't want the liberalism of Western society and these retarded societies to infect their culture. Okay, so this all really kicked off in 2014, 2015 under the blood moons. Okay, so Putin has been pushing this Eurasian concept. And Dugin sees the Ukraine war as part of a wider spiritual battle between traditional order and progressive chaos. Okay, so that's what they're fighting against. Dugin is that man. He is basically the neo-Rasputin of this time, and he wants to be the leader over the Fourth Reich. Putin would be the obvious leader, but this would be the philosophical leader. So he's the mystic, and so Putin has frequently tried to legitimize his invasion of Ukraine by invoking the idea of religiously tinged civilizational clash, Eurasia against the West. For Putin, Moscow is the third Rome, or the fourth, the spiritual and cultural inheritor of the legacy of the Roman and Byzantine empires, the center of distinctly anti-European dominion, one powerful and authoritarian enough to withstand the perceived threats of liberal modernity, multiculturalism, and progressive values. Yep, there you go. So there is the Orthodox faith. They do not like the Catholic faith. They fight against it. So keep that in mind. This is the split area, okay? And Ukraine is the borderland between Catholic and Orthodox. Food. So Russia wants food. Russia wants to be able to feed their Russians. And so their food is part of the battle here, to make sure that they can eat. And if others can't, who cares, you know? Fear makes Putin more oil money. As the price of oil goes up, that's good for Putin, okay? And so he's smart enough to realize these types of skirmishes are good for his economy. And then also the magnetic North Pole is chasing Putin south. So since 2014, the pole started moving faster towards Putin. And so he has to move south too. So he has to claim territories that have food. Okay, and then you have the craziness of Zelensky and the guy that's propping him up, which would be Soros, and then that crazy WEF guy, you know who he is, Klaus Schwab, and then some of the other crazy guys like Lindsey Graham. He's a neocon. Okay, so they think that we can win this war. Well, they're wrong. So all these crazy people are always involved, and they're always evil. Okay, so what am I getting at? I think we're leading towards the fourth seal. And so natural gas is soaring 700% in Europe. Oh, that's exciting, okay? And then this is an article on the right-hand side that says the coming food catastrophe. And those are not grains on the stalks there. Those are skulls, okay? So Putin knows about all these things. So we've got lots of issues going on right now. I think it's leading towards the fourth seal. So where are we right now? We're in the birth pangs. We're definitely in the third seal. Are we in the fourth seal yet? Maybe. The tribulation will start at some point in time. Then the Great Tribulation would finish off the last 3.5 years. Where are we on the timeline? We're just bouncing along in the birth pangs. I have no idea of how many years along it'll be. You know, another 20, 40, 60 years. I don't know. But it seems like it's moving faster, doesn't it? Pangs are much louder. I wanted to point out a couple of little things at the end here. We're not going to read the whole thing, but just so you're aware that the second animal, so the first animal is a lion with the wings ripped off. Then the second one is a bear. I'm arguing that's Medo-Persia, but also Russia. And then the third animal from Daniel 7 is the leopard. And then the fourth animal is Rome, and it's just a dreadful animal. So keep that in mind, and then the Antichrist comes out of it. In this horn were eyes like human eyes, and the mouth speaking arrogantly. That's the Antichrist. So we'll see that come out of probably the Western system. Okay, that's Daniel 7, and so I wanted to show you the bear, just so you can see that, and then the bear again from Revelation 13. The bear in this case, so the beast I saw was like a leopard, but had feet like those of a bear, Russian bear maybe. In the mouth of a lion, the dragon gave its power, its throne, and great authority to this Antichrist, basically. One of the heads of the beast appeared to have received a fatal wound, but the fatal wound was healed, and the whole earth followed after the beast in amazement. Revelation 12. And through 13:3. We are in a situation right now where we want clean garments. God will provide his spirit for you, okay? But you need to keep your garments clean. So obey the commandments and trust in God. It's a wedding coming, people. Get ready for it. And that's the end. God bless you. Thank you very much for your time. Be careful.